how can you be better at adapting to change at work? If there's anything that we learned in 2020, it's that adapting to change at work is a crucial career success skill. But how can you do better? And as we head into the next year, we are still going to be faced with adapting to change at work. So how can you be the best possible when it comes to adapting to change? Well, that is what we are exploring in this video. If you are ready to learn how to quickly adapt to change at work, tap that like button and let's just jump straight into it. The first step to adapt to change at work effectively is to accept it. Whether it's a complete change in how we work, like how so many of us just went from going to work in an office to working from home, if it's a change in your career status because your company has gone through some changes and is having to downsize, or maybe you're going through a merger and acquisition, or just your usual restructure at work. The most important thing that we can do when it comes to adapting to change at work is to accept it. You're not going to be able to change all of the macro level things and world events and leadership decisions that are going to impact your day-to-day life at work. However, instead of resisting the wave, you can decide to get on it and surf. And I know some of the changes create a lot of instability and unsteadiness and fear and anxiety and all of those things, but accept that the change is happening and control what you can control. And this actually leads me to my next tip to adapt to change at work, and that is to communicate. Especially when you are going through change at work, there is going to be a lot more questions than there were answers. This is exactly what I went through a few years ago when the company I worked for was acquired by the biggest SaaS company in the world, Salesforce. And I ended up first leading a team which combined teams from multiple companies, but then also integrating it into the core Salesforce business. And yeah, I had a lot of questions, and we were figuring out a lot of the answers along the way at every level of leadership. And the thing that I learned as we navigated all of the unknowns that we needed to then was that the best thing that I could do, both for my boss, for my team, and for my peers, was to communicate. The more open I was about what we were working on, the status of things, the goals, and the more clearly I understood what was going on around me, I was better able to navigate those changes and to help my team members navigate those changes as well. Even if you're not a manager and you don't need to worry about communicating with your team, you can still be a leader in adapting to change at work by making sure that you're keeping open communications with everyone around you. And this brings me to my third tip to adapting to change at work. And this is the most important one, especially if you are going through a major reorganization or a merger and acquisition. And if you focus on this one thing as you adapt to change at work, you're going to be okay. When you need to adapt to change at work, focus on the metrics that matter and do this unrelentlessly. No matter what change your company and the team is going through, there are going to be specific metrics that are non-negotiables. And as long as those are moving in a positive direction, you are going to be doing everything that you can to support your business and your team through the change that you're navigating through. And if you are navigating through an unstable time in your career as your company is doing this, this is going to net you the most positive result, either in job stability where you're at or making you really in demand for your dream job. And the metrics that matter typically come down to the dollars and cents. Going back to when I was leading the team through the merger, I knew the best thing that I can do for myself and for my team was to focus on growing our team's revenue. We were a profit center, and I knew that if we had high margins, that my team would be safe and that the business would want to make sure that the team was sustained. And all of my team members were absolutely instrumental in doing this because they were focusing on those same metrics that mattered. So while you're adapting to change at work, I want you to think about what metric can I really focus on? If you're in sales, it's your quota, it's new revenue. If you're in customer success or account management, it's going to be on revenue retention. If you're in support, it's going to be client satisfaction. Focusing on that metric is going to give you guidance when everything else is completely ambiguous. And this is actually something that can even help guide you to implement the fourth tip that I have to adapt to change at work, and that is to find ways to make an impact. Going back to all of those questions that don't have answers, if you know your wheelhouse, you know your expertise, and what you are uniquely qualified to do, you are actually going to be able to be someone that answers some of those questions. And this is one of the things that I dive into my workshop, and that's defining your UAQ and what you need to do to bring it to life and to really ascend the ranks. Because ultimately, when you are navigating change at work, it is actually an opportunity. Maybe at your company, maybe in stepping up into a different role at a different company. No matter what it is, as long as you know your UAQ and what you can bring to the table and are making that positive impact, you are going to be accelerating your success even through unsure times at work. And this brings me to the next tip that I have for you in adapting to change at work. And this one is crucial because I know a lot of people that don't do this and they end up miserable, insecure, and sometimes on the chopping block. When you're navigating change at work, you need to stay positive. And I know when there's a lot of uncertainty, when there's a lot of ambiguity, you might not be feeling very confident in your career or in the stability of your job at that company. And that's a hard place to be in. But remember, you only really control two things in this situation. You control how awesome you are, and you control your attitude. And in fact, when you choose to adopt a positive mindset as you're adapting to change at work, this is going to be what allows you to see and really take advantage of the opportunities that are being presented as you navigate those changes at work. In fact, this is so important. I want you to head over to this video right now and find out how you can cultivate a more positive attitude at work. But before you go, if this video is helpful, make sure and tap that like button. It really, really helps my channel. If you haven't already, consider subscribing because I want you to be my career bestie. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.